Like, hi, Rosie.
How are you?
I'm A-okay. How are you?
You don't look old enough to be a journalist on the TV or
I
whatever.
am older than I look. I've been told that my
Really?
entire life.
Do people like card you when you go out for a drink?
I've had like bartenders accost me. Like I'll go into a bar and sit down and I'll have someone like run from behind a bar and like give me your ID. So,
Right.
and I'm short too, so that probably doesn't help.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
Oh my God, I'd never think that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, so I have been such a huge fan of yours for such a long time. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
My pleasure.
And I love this show so much. Your performance really surprised me because it is unlike anything that we've ever seen you do before. I was wondering, because you have been so vocal about the importance of family and you've been very open, like pretty much your entire career about your family and how important that is that one of the main reasons why you wanted to do this show?
No, not really. I had read the book
Uh-huh.
years ago and loved everything that Wally Lamb had ever written. So I was so thrilled to hear that they were making this into a movie. And my agent called me and said they want to see you for this. And I was thrilled because I knew a lot about being a social worker. I had a teacher who became like a mom to me, and she quit teaching and became a social worker. So I was familiar with the book, the character, and her job
Yeah.
description. So I was really happy. I mean, it's taken a long time for me to be seen for roles like this. And I
Hmm.
always thought that when I got into my 60s, and I'm 58 now, that I would be able to get those Geraldine Page kind of roles, those, roles that like Pope of Greenwich Village, like the mother who's a little messed up and tries her best. And so
Yeah.
I was happy. This is what I consider to be one of the first roles like that, I hope, of many.
Yeah, we were actually talking about, I was talking with some of the people that I write with who had also seen the show. They're doing other interviews today, and they were talking about how they've never seen you like this before, and we all want to see you do more stuff like this because you're so good in it. Um,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. When Lisa first met Dominic and like she started getting familiar with the case, do you think that this felt different to her?
I think the fact that they are twins and they look so much alike, and the duality of one healthy, one not. I think that really fascinated her. She'd never had a situation like that, never had clients who were twins,
Mhm.
and never had really a family member so much advocating for their ill family member. That's a
Mhm.
bit most like, I think there was a line that we cut out of the final cut, but that said, most people don't have visitors here. You're here every day, you
Yeah.
know? And the fact that he cared so much, I think, intrigued her as well.
Okay. Yeah, I love I'm actually one of my favorite scenes is you don't you don't say a lot in one scene where you sit in a scene with Mark as both Dominic and Thomas. And I sort of zeroed in on your face because the way that you were watching both men, it sort of like made it feel like more that there were two Marks in the room. And I actually had a friend who worked on the production who was telling me about how um, Mark's body double went like really method with the role as well. And I sort of wanted to ask what it was like sort of being in the room for that one scene where you got to see Mark play both Thomas and Dominic.
It was months in between. So we
Okay.
shot the first one with Dominic, and then he went off and gained all the weight, and we had a hiatus. And then
Mm-hmm.
I came back, and he was sitting across the table instead of next to me. And the wonderful actor who did that, he did both roles beautifully, and he was so invested in each of them that it made it much easier for us to react. Green screen normally is how they would do that. You would sit there and you'd act to an X on a mic stand, right? A piece of X on a duct tape, with duct tape, and that's a very hard way to do it. But he was such a great actor. I wish I could remember his name right now, and it starts with a G. Fazio is his last name, but he was an amazing actor. He had worked with Derek before in one of his other films, I think The Light Between the Pines, or one of those.
The Place Between the Pines. Yeah.
Place Between the Pines. He was in that film and had worked with Derek before, and Derek called him and said, "How would you like to be in this movie and play both the lead roles, but you'll never be seen in one part of the film?" And he agreed to do it, and he was a trooper, man. He was trying on every take. He was present. He was there, and he definitely stayed in character the whole time.
Yeah. Wow. You have a really interesting moment. I think it's in episode 4 when you are sort of telling Dominic about being with Thomas during the hearing. And there is a moment that really stuck with me. It's honestly one of my favorite moments in the show because it hit me so hard when Bruce Davison's character is asking Thomas that question of, well, would you have done this if God told you to? And Mark answers yes. And he sort of looks at you in a way where, I don't want to say like he looks at you like he won, but like he proved his point to you. And I had wondered if you can recall that moment to what it was like to feel that way. And also, does Lisa wish that she had Dominic there because of the connection between him and Thomas?
Well, that was the one when Dominic was not there in that scene.
Yeah.
Right. And then we did a lot of different takes of that. And some of the takes I was answering back, but who turned out to be my boss, I was saying, well, that's not fair. You can't ask him that. That's not a fair question. But they, it worked better. They cut it both ways, and it worked better the way Derek chose. But he did feel like, see, I told you, because I was advocating for him to be released into family custody with the hope of getting him back into a environment that is more restricted, a therapeutic environment for him. But he did feel like he had won. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
It sort of made me feel that, like, I don't know, just that like hurt my heart a little bit. It's I don't know, it's something to do with like you are more familiar with the case than other people. And it made me think of how, people who aren't really familiar with facts, whether they hear something on the news, they don't know everything and they make an opinion about it. And that's why that hurt my heart a little bit. If I could talk a little bit about a couple of the last moments that you have in the show. You have a really sort of not tense confrontation with Dominic, I think in episode 5, where you tell him that he's arrogant. And you say you don't appreciate how much it takes. And then later you have that really emotional scene towards the end. Do you think she regrets saying those things to him?
No, I think that it's true. He was arrogant in his desire to win and do what he thought was right for his brother. But he didn't take on anyone else's opinion. He didn't listen to me enough, I felt. And he didn't, take my advice on every occasion. Mm-hmm. And I think that no one deserves what the outcome turned out to be. And so when I'm there at the end, it is with just overwhelming grief for him, for everything he tried to do and for everything I tried to warn him against. And here we are at the resolution, I think that was just a day or 2 days of pure grief. And it felt like that. There was a heaviness in the room. It was raining outside. It just felt overwhelmingly heavy.
Yeah. And actually, I watched it all in like almost one sitting.
Wow, you're a champ.
Well, I watched like the first 4 like late at night, and then I got up and I watched the other 2. So it sort of feels like one sitting. And I remember hearing about it, I was like, oh, it has to be really heavy. But like the ending feels very hopeful and very optimistic. Is that what really you all collectively wanted everyone to like leave with or take from it the most?
Well, this concept that life goes on,
Yeah.
The concept that no matter what hardships you're faced with onward, you have to move forward. And that in a way that there was some relief to Dominic's life by having Thomas gone. And as sad as that is to reconcile within yourself, that's a truth, a heavy, hard truth that Dominic is going to have to live with,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way Derek chose to do it, it had to leave with a little optimism. You know, it was
Yeah.
like Trials of Job. You know, everything that could happen bad to him happened bad to him.
Yeah. And something that also made me curious was we don't ever get to see Lisa at home. Like the only times we ever see her is in like a very professional capacity. I think the first two episodes are in your office. And then I wanted to ask you, like, how do you think she carries this home with her? Like, is she able to separate it when she goes home? Is she constantly thinking about it?
I think she's able to separate it, which I took from my friend Pat Marivelle, who was a social worker in her life. She would be able to sort of leave it at the door, but it does still linger, I think, in her, you know, in Lisa's life. When we filmed it, there was a running theme about her selling chocolate for her daughter's soccer team. And it was too long, so they cut it out. But nearly every time I saw Dominic, I would say, "Hey, you want a peanut cluster? Come on, we have, right?" And it was a little jokes of that. And that's why in the hospital, he says to me, "I want you to take your daughter out and go for spend a little time with your daughter and have a nice day."
Yeah.
Right? Because she's talked about her daughter a lot during the film, which didn't end up in the film. But she had a daughter and she was single, no husband, no boyfriend, no nothing, just by herself, trying to work and raise her kid. And we had a whole backstory, or I had a whole backstory in my mind that I was using to do it. You know, that she had been with a woman and the woman died, and now she's raising this daughter alone. And that was my backstory in my head. But they had to cut out a lot of that part.
Yeah.
About the chocolate candy, which was
well, I think that's all I have for you. Thank you so much. I have to tell you that I know the sister of one of your former assistants, Bobby. So I messaged her last night and she says hello. I'm not sure if you remember her, Cindy Pierce. So she says
I do remember her, yes.
Yeah.
And both her parents died. So sad.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I've been such a huge fan. I'm sort of geeking out a little bit. So
well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck getting a drink at a bar.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.